So Arc Raiders recently hosted their server slam, and now that it's ended, we're seeing tons of feedback from people who both played the tech tests and people who have only ever played the server slam, and even just people who only reacted to gameplay of both. And there have been tons of valid criticisms, lots of things that Arc Raiders could improve on for sure, but amongst them, there have also been quite a few, let's say, shoddy takes. And so I was looking for a couple of them to put together and make a response video to, and that's whenever I came across this video here called Arc Raiders Isn't What I Expected. And this video basically summed up a lot of the bad criticisms of Arc Raiders that I was seeing all into one video. So I figured instead of mixing together a bunch of different Reddit posts or social media tweets, YouTube comments, such and such, I could just use this video as the prime example. Now, no hate to this dude, because you'll see these comments like his all over the internet. Hell, you get a bunch of people even in his comment section that are completely agreeing with what he's saying. So like this isn't to knock this dude in particular, rather more so to correct what he's talking about, because a lot of what he's talking about is just objectively wrong or comes from a place of misunderstanding, part of which I will admit is definitely the server slam's fault. Before we start, if you enjoy Arc Raiders content and want to see more, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. And let me know down in the comments section below how your experience with the Arc Raiders server slam went. So let's hop into his video.
Arc Raiders is playable to the masses for the first time 2 weeks before its launch, and I've been very excited to try this game for months now after seeing lots of footage from other players. Well, I spent the weekend server slam playing the game, and to my unfortunate surprise, I don't think this game is for me. It took me by surprise. Well, a lot of things about the game did. Some good and some bad. We'll be briefly going over what this game gets right, and then focusing more on what, to me, from my personal experience, the game gets wrong and why I don't see myself playing it when it fully launches. It feels weird to even say that. I thought this was going to be a no-brainer purchase, but now my feelings are really conflicted. Is it the game, or is it me? I was very surprised by all the good elements the game has to offer. Arc Raiders is genuinely beautiful to look at. From the foliage and the footage, I knew the game looked good, but seeing it on my own monitor, I was like, damn, I'm very impressed. As much as I was impressed by the audio, the ambient sounds, the clicks and clacks of all the different mechanical parts in the world, the beeps and boops, it feels very much appropriate for the universe this game is set in. And the biggest shock to me was the performance. I thought I was going to struggle with running this game, but no, it runs buttery smooth. Easily over 100 frames most of the time, and not having to mess with any of the graphical settings. I guess I underestimated the scope and scale of this game in general, because I just figured it would run okay and I'd have to make some visual sacrifices somewhere. That to me is one of the most impressive parts of this entire package.
Arc Raiders is definitely a very stunning game. It's ran using Unreal Engine 5, which a lot of people like to criticize as being a terrible engine, and I'm very much glad that Arc Raiders has come out and really shown that no, Unreal Engine 5 is actually somewhat usable if you put the time into optimizing it.
The out-of-rate experience is also such a breath of fresh air. The UI for the most part is easy to understand and coherent across the game.
I could not disagree more. The UI is god-awful, at least out of raid. It is a very clunky system where, let's say you want to go into a raid, you're in the lobby, you load it up, you select whatever you want to go, whichever map it is, and before you go, you realize, oh shoot, I don't have the proper attachments for my weapons. Well, you have workbenches where you can craft them. Easy fix. Well, instead of just being able to press a button and open up the workshop menu, you instead have to navigate all the way back to the lobby, and then from there, open up the workshop from that point. And that might not sound so bad, but after you do it a lot, which the more you play the game, the more you will, and the farther you get into the game, when you have more attachments and just more things in general to craft, the more often that's gonna happen, it gets very annoying and very tedious very quickly.
Plus all the vibrant colors makes it visually pleasing to look at. There's a couple odd choices here and there with the location of some options in the main menu, but it's nothing that would sour your experience.
It's not a major thing until you start playing the game for hours and hours and hours. And so if you're like a hardcore grinder, you're definitely going to arrive at this conclusion a lot faster than if you're a casual. But even if you are a casual, eventually you'll get there too, because it's just a really annoying and tedious thing to do. Does it ruin the game? No. But will it start to sour your mood on the game? A bit.
The biggest takeaway was how awesome the workbench is. Your own little station that you can craft and upgrade modules, which takes 0 time to make, meaning you can just get straight back into the action without waiting around for crafts to finish. And the chicken that will go out and scavenge for you, so you always have materials to craft, is also a very nice touch.
You know what? And for all the critiques I'm going to have about how this dude views the game, I got to give him this. At least he understood what Scrappy meant. This dude already gets a higher grade than the dude from IGN who couldn't even figure that out, so.
A lot of consideration went into the player just wanting to be in raids and having the tools and equipment necessary to do it at all times. I truly appreciate this consideration. People seem to have some concessions with the third-person perspective, but I personally love it. I enjoyed PUBG only in third person, and I think this perspective is kind of slept on. I like to look at my character, especially when I can customize them, so for me, it doesn't detract from the experience at all. But there are some things about the game that do. So much so, I feel like an idiot that doesn't understand arc raiders.
So he says that about third person, but I want you to note, pay very close attention to these clips. You'll notice in almost all of them, he never shoulder swaps. I don't know if this is something where he just doesn't know it's a thing, but he claims that he doesn't mind the third person, and even later on in the video that he enjoys it, and yet he doesn't shoulder swap. This is relevant because he'll make another point later, I'll bring it up whenever he does, but not using the shoulder swap is in part why it feels the way that it does. And so I just want to bring this up now so that when you're watching these clips, you can be aware of that. So keep that in the back of your mind as you see it.
The focal point of this video will be about where I have personal grievances with the core gameplay experience while being in raid. And again, I really need to stress and reiterate, these are my own personal feelings towards the game and some of the elements surrounding it. I do not speak for anyone else. If you're having a blast playing or you're enjoying watching the game, please continue to enjoy it. I'm glad that you are. The first thing is the AI. I've seen some people praise how it operates and how the fact that we're fighting robots instead of other AI humanoid characters and how it's smart. And while yes, it's a clever way to add to the game's lore and also excuse any potential mishaps the AI might have, I found the PvE elements to be somewhat not interesting, at least the lower class of the robots. They patrol, fly around, alert other AI of your presence, and will try to pepper you down with either bullets or like electric zaps.
Because these minor arcs should not be doing that much. I'm not entirely sure if he expects like the small ones, the little flamers or the spiderlings to be like fucking you up, like one-shotting you or something. Even the ones that roll at you and then explode, that can take all your shield and like half of your real health. Not to mention, literally in this following clip that you're about to see, he fucking dies to a flamer. Wait for that one. Literally wait for that one. But, I mean, it seemed like there was more than enough challenge for you. And while, yes, the smaller arcs are not something that are like a big threat to your life, to your existence, to you being able to extract, they do still shape how the game is played.
And while I'm sure the more powerful robots in the game provide a vastly more engaging experience, requiring teams to work together or randoms to cooperate, the smaller robots that you will see more often are kind of just there. If you can find some solid cover, you can peek out, fire at them, and then retreat to cover before they attack you, repeating this cycle until they explode and you can loot them. I understand them being nuances for the player, to ruin ambushes, or to actually be a danger you need to avoid, but they don't feel that intelligent, if that makes sense. The biggest contention I have with this game is fighting other players. I find the PvP in this game awful. It's hard to explain. The experiences I've had fighting other players feels like the messiest, scrambliest fights I've had when interacting with other people, and not in the good way. An opposite example would be early game Tarkov, where people struggle to hit each other because they have stock guns. You still have full auto for most options, you still have, basic medication that if you bring enough deals with most problems you run into, and people generally enjoy that part of a Tarkov wipe because it's just so ambiguous.
As far as the fights feeling scrambly, I'm not entirely sure what he means by that, but at the same time, they in part should, especially in the server slam where you only have access to the most beginner of gears. Now, to play devil's advocate, I do have to say I didn't really enjoy any of the starting weapons except for maybe the Pharaoh and the Stitcher. I thought the rest of the weapons felt kind of shit, so maybe that's what he's alluding to. And if that's the case, then yeah, I would agree, but there's obviously a lot more weapons in the game. So I don't know what he's talking about not being able to bring enough medication, because even in the early game of Arc Raiders, you can instantly craft light shields. You can instantly craft shield rechargers. The only thing that really I could think is the fact that before in the tech tests, you used to be able to craft in raid automatically, whereas now it's locked behind a perk. Although that perk is very early on, I think once you reach like level 3, if you want to max it, if you want to unlock it immediately, you can do that. So it's not like it's like super deep into the perk skill tree now or something, but you should be able to have enough healing and shielding for the entire raid. I don't really understand what he's getting at with that one.
Sure, the normal hotspots exist, but you're way more likely to run into someone where you would least expect it, ironically enough. No.
And I guess I agree with what he's saying, that you're more likely to find people in the places that you least expect them. But that's just because the game's new. People don't know where to go. People don't know what's where. They don't know what they need or anything like that. For instance, nearing the end of the playtest, I decided to start this little looting adventure where I wanted to make as much money as possible. And the best way I found to do that was to specifically go to these houses near the top of the map, because that's where you could find trinkets, and those trinkets sell for a lot of money. And so once I knew that, whenever I wanted to get the money, I knew that that's where I needed to go. Right now, people don't know what's where and what they want. And even more so, because it's a server slam, nothing transfers over. There's no real need to try and go out and get specific things anyways. Once the full game comes out and people start to understand that there's X thing here, there's Y thing there, then it's going to be a lot more easy to understand where players are going. Right now, since the game's new and since this is the first time most people have been able to get their hands on the game, they're kind of just wandering around aimlessly exploring every nook and cranny. So while you're also doing that, you're gonna run into people in a random ass corner in some random part of the map. So ultimately, this comes down to the game being new and people exploring more so than, I would say, game or map design.
In this game, it feels obtuse and unsatisfying when it works and miserable when it doesn't. I understand what they're going for. Cobbled together guns give them an excuse to not make weapons uber powerful even at higher tiers of rarity, and slows the game down so people kind of need to get close to each other. But it just doesn't feel good. It's tough to articulate, but right now, and what I assume will be the problem at release, is that the top tier gear in the game won't specifically be that powerful, but the starting and lower tiered equipment doesn't feel powerful enough.
My question is, did you even experience those higher tiers of rarity though? Because due to some more things that you're going to say later, and also just what you show in the video, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like you only really got to use maybe up to the anvil, which, I mean, shit, me too. And this is a limitation I would say of the server slam, is that they probably should have just made all the loot blue tiers and higher, since none of it's going to carry over anyways. But yes, these weapons feel bad and they feel cobbled together, because they're the starter weapons. There's 5 different tiers of weapons, and amongst those different weapons have a bunch of different archetypes. And these are the weapons that you're going to be spending most of the time using. Once again, I think this is kind of a failure of the server slam, where it creates this unrealistic expectation that you're going to be using these starter weapons for long periods of time or relatively into the mid to late game, but you're really only going to be using them for like maybe the first 5 hours or so.
Especially the melee. I feel like it does way too much damage. I've died to more melee combos where my weapons are so slow, cumbersome, and inaccurate that by the time I can start to land successful shots, I've been hit 4 times by a melee weapon and I'm dead. It's insufferable and infuriating.
And this is just like the biggest skill issue I've ever seen. I'm not even trying to flame, but I have no fucking clue what you're talking about. Dying to melee multiple times is actually kind of fucking insane. Saying that the melee damage is too much is incredibly funny to me, or that you can't get away is also incredibly funny to me, because you need to use stamina to both swing your weapon and obviously to close distance to run. And so what this is sounding like is more of an issue with positioning, because even just swinging the pickaxe takes a fuck ton of stamina. And so realistically, as long as you kite away from the person running and swinging at you with the pickaxe, which by the way also slows you down as you swing, you should be able to have enough distance to still maintain like at least 5 feet. And so once they run out of stamina, which if they're trying to hit you with the pickaxe while running at you and swinging it, they should run out of stamina relatively quickly. You should be able to just turn and shoot them.
Sure, I could try to keep my distance to prevent that, but then my weapons can't land accurate hits.
I mean, maybe you could try upgrading the weapons. If you upgrade the weapons, they do become a lot more accurate. They can also increase reload speed. So about the weapons feeling clunky, part of that is the fact that you did not upgrade the weapons and that the weapons are just generally not meant to be very good because they're the starter weapons.
The spawns in the game are like hit and miss. Sometimes they feel perfectly fine, and other times I run into someone in less than 60 seconds. Very much like EFT, it's a take it or leave it circumstance, I suppose. But these problems with teammates don't really amount to much. It can be more manageable and even fun to have to juggle all these weird, quirky guns. It's when you try to play this game solo where I feel as though it truly falls apart. Solo play in this game is where I have the most issues with arc raiders emphatically. Unlike Tarkov, where I can realistically take out a 5-man if I hit my shots and get lucky, as far as I can tell, there is no way to quickly put someone down with a single bullet if they have a shield. The only way that would happen is if they don't have one. Meaning, if you are by yourself and run into 2 or more people, you just cannot fight them. It becomes a war of attrition, and you're just gonna lose that.
So even though there's not like a core wipe mechanic, there's still going to be a lot of loot disparity between the actual players once the game releases, because there's going to be people at different stages of progress. And so as a solo player, it is very much doable, especially if you're near the late stage end game where you have upgraded shields, you have upgraded weapons. If you come across even like a 3-man of people who are early off in the game, or even somewhat in the middle depending on what you have, it is very much possible to outplay them. But even more than that, it's not just about shooting them. I feel like a lot of players, not even just this dude, but just in general, do not use the arc to their full capabilities. This is literally a mechanic that arc raiders themselves has demonstrated in promotional material, but using the arc to attack your enemies, to pinch your enemies, to pressure your enemies, is such a huge valuable asset. And that also plays into why the arc are such a big threat. He mentioned earlier that they kind of don't really do anything, but they very much do. And if you use them as a tool against the other raiders, it can be incredibly strong and incredibly useful at taking out multiple people.
I've heard that this game tries to put you into lobbies with other solos if you play by yourself, and if this game truly does have like a solo queue priority, I have not experienced it because every fight I've gotten into, other than I think 1, my opponent had at least 1 more friend, if not 2. I genuinely would prefer just a solo queue because in this game, fights are so long and players can have so much health from shields. There is, again, no way a solo is taking down 2 people who are even half coordinated with each other. If there was a way to put someone down in even 1 or 2 bullets, maybe I could see keeping everybody together in the same queue, having absolutely cracked aim, and being able to land not even a headshot, but a face shot, bypasses or ignore shields.
You know, and I think right here is a perfect example of he didn't even mention the arc. And it's like, of course the game feels crappy whenever you're not fully utilizing the systems available to you. Using the arc to take out multiple people, or at the very least to put them in a position to where it's easier for you to do something about them, that is a huge part of arc and its PvP. The Arc Raiders devs recently talked in depth about some of their design decisions, and a huge part of it is keeping the PvP and the PvE equally threatening, which in part infects both other aspects. And so if you're not using the PvP effectively, like hell, in this clip, you literally see the fact that the flamer downs this enemy for him. Why? Because he was able to use the flamer to bait it to attack this dude while he's hiding behind cover. Case in point, using the arc to fight enemy players is a core staple of the gameplay, and if you do not use it, it is going to have a worse experience, especially if you come across people who are going to use it against you.
That would be the only way I could see a solo defeating a squad of any kind. But in a game like this, where the time to kill can be so much higher, the preference will most likely be playing together.
I'm not entirely sure what he's talking about, because at least for me personally, I don't think I ever came across multiple people. I never experienced it. I played most of the server slams solo, including a 19-hour stream, and I never once came across multiple groups. I don't know how many games he played, but I guess maybe he just got incredibly unlucky, because for the most part, from what I've seen online, most people have also had a similar experience to what I had whenever it comes to playing solo, where you just don't run into that many teams.
Hell, even something like Apex, a good solo can take out a duo or trio because the munitions provided to them facilitate the ability to fight groups of people. But if you're using a gun in this game that is lever action, bolt action, slide action, or anything that requires a rechamber after each shot, if those guns don't do high damage to offset their low fire rate, you're not taking down a trio or even a duo. It's not happening. And this is coming from someone who likes PvP but doesn't go out of my way usually to find it. It's just that I've fought other players whether I wanted to or not, and these problems, at least in my eyes, became apparent almost immediately.
And yeah, this is like a complete misunderstanding on your part. You are never, ever meant to try and like fully wipe squads with the weapons you have. If that's what you think, that's just completely wrong. As you go higher into the rarities, that becomes more of an option, yes. And I would say even once you get into like the greens, it low-key becomes an option. But with most of the starter weapons, they have low magazines, long reloads, and kind of mediocre damage / range. And that's the point. They're the starter weapons. They're not meant to really be all that good. They're just meant to allow you to do certain gameplay. You're not meant to actively be going out and searching for PvP with the worst weapons. If you want to bring this back to Apex Legends, would you expect to be able to go squad wipe somebody with the P20? Of course not.
Considering my frustrations with solo play, you'd say try using VoIP. It's in the game and it works well from what I've seen online. While my VoIP experience are non-existent, even when I was going out of my way to try to at least talk to people. I double-checked my settings to make sure it was on and working, but alas, no one wanted to chat. Maybe it was just a bad group of people already in like a Discord with their friends, but not a single person in the dozen or so I came across responded to me saying hello or anything. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad it's in the game, but because squad play is going to be favored, at least that's what I'm assuming, people will be less interested in having random persons assimilate into their group and potentially cause problems. Also, I want to reiterate again, the third-person perspective is fine. I personally like it. I don't know why people get so upset about it. You get to look at your character wearing cool clothes, you can check your corners more effectively, and your opponents can do the same. I always played PUBG in third person because it just made more sense. I like the perspective. It's not gonna ruin the game. It's probably just better off this way. As I kept playing, I found myself just getting more upset at not being able to win fights against other players, the AI feeling rudimentary, and the gameplay loop kind of feeling devoid of any tension or stress. And even though by the end I wanted to stop playing, I put in an additional like 3 to 5 hours into Arc Raiders almost out of spite because I genuinely felt like I was broken. I wasn't having fun. I felt like I was seeing issues with the game while most people had generally positive things to say about the in-raid experience, and yet I kept playing. I don't normally like to use this term, but I felt like I somehow gaslit myself. Does the game have any problems, or do I just suck at it and this is just a weird me thing?
Like, not even to be hateful though, but genuinely there's been many different skill issues and misconceptions that has led him to the reasons why he does not enjoy the game. And if you play the game in the way he does and you have the misconceptions that he does, I imagine you probably wouldn't enjoy the game.
I was getting upset playing the game and I kept telling myself, surely once I understand this part of it, or I unlocked that thing, then the game's gonna make sense and all will be forgiven and I'll be able to have a good time. But the magical thing to make the game click never happened. And so after this playtest, I'm kind of disappointed I don't enjoy the game. I was really looking forward to trying it and enjoying it, but if I'm going to be primarily playing solo, trying my best, but just always coming up short, I probably just shouldn't play at all. I don't want to ruin this game for anyone who is excited. If you're looking forward to it, please buy it and have fun when it comes out. But from my personal experience playing as a solo, this game left me feeling kind of just empty. I did not care about the world, I did not care about my gear, and I didn't really care about anything. And the only thing I feel when I lose is frustration. Not because I lost or that I could have played better, but because it felt hopeless to even try. I know I'm in the minority with this mentality, mindset, and experience of feedback, and I know this video will most likely get downvoted to hell and back. I know I will get clowned on for saying this stuff, and that's all fine. I'm ready for that. But from my experience, I am apathetic towards pretty much everything in this game when it comes down to in-raid gameplay. I don't care about the PvP because it feels so bad, and dying doesn't fill me with dread or the fear of loss kicking in like it does in other extraction shooters. I just throw my hands up and roll my eyes.
The PvP feels bad because you don't understand how the weapons are actually meant to engage with it. I.e., if you notice, even in the beginning of the game, if you notice at the beginning of the video, he's using the hairpin against enemies, and yeah, the hairpin is quite literally the worst weapon in the game for PvP. That weapon is meant for quietly taking out arcs. It is a single shot that needs to, like, cock back after each shot, meaning it's incredibly ineffective, in combat at least. And like I said, a lot of the other weapons have huge limitations. For instance, the kettle has a massive reload. Obviously, the Pharaoh only has a singular shot, the Stitcher doesn't really have range, and the Splatterer has a maximum magazine size of 10 that you cannot increase. So none of the starter weapons are really all that good, especially at combat, but if you start using the weapons like the Apagio, the Anvil, the Il Toro, or even just the Beretta, the PvP becomes so much better. In part, that is definitely due to Arc Raiders. I think they horribly misrepresented the game by only really including the lower tier weapons. I think that they should have upped it, maybe green and aboves only, just for the simple fact that people could actually get to play and experience these higher tier weapons, because there's a lot of players, unfortunately, like this dude, who misunderstand and think that these weapons are representative of all the weapons in the game when they're shit, because that's the point. They're meant to be shit. And that's part of the satisfying nature of getting the better weapon, really comparing it and seeing, wow, this weapon is so much better than these others. And so for that, I can't really blame him. I more so blame the server slam.
It's really frustrating. I see that this game is polished as hell and that it will be hugely successful, and I want it to be. We need more competition in this genre so people don't get lazy and slack off. But I don't think it's for me, and you know what? That's okay. I was really excited for it, but now I don't want to play anymore, which is a shame. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know down in the comments section below your thoughts on the Arc Raiders server blast, whether or not you enjoyed if you participated, what are your impressions of the game so far, and be sure to subscribe for more potentially really hot takes that I didn't want to be true, but the reality came crashing down on me, sadly. I hope to see you in future ones.
Well, that's all I have for you today. Maybe I'm completely off base. Let me know down in the comments if you thought Arc Raiders was a cold piece of meatloaf. Let me know if you're going to be purchasing the game. And seriously, if you played the tech test, let people know your experiences and just how much it differed from the server slam. Because there was so much content that was gated in the server slam, and I think that really was a huge downside because it misrepresented the end product. But other than that, I hope you have a good day, and peace, people.